Welcome back to Enshrouded, everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to build a staircase from rustic tables like the ones that you see here in my forest village. And I just love the way that these tables mesh with the terrain. They look really nice as a little staircase, especially in a little forest village project. And you can build them straight like I've done here, or you can also build them to go up and wind around, which is really nice because we can rotate tables in any direction. So these are just from the medium tables, and you can also do them out of the larger tables, like what I used for this bridge here, and the smaller tables, depending on what size you're working with and the space that you have. So without further ado, sit back, get cozy, and let's get building. Alright, so for this example, I've just picked a little spot here in the tar pits area of the Blackmire Forest, and I want to build a little staircase that kind of starts here and then winds up and around to end at this little platform here in the roots of this tree. So to start, you can either start from the ground level and build up, or you can start from your destination that you're building up to and then work your way down, which in this case is what I'm going to do because I want the table to be placed pretty exactly up here. I have a bit more room to work with. I don't know exactly where it's going to land just yet, but there's a lot more space down here than there is up here. So depending on what space you have, you might want to start from the bottom or from the top, and what I'm going to show you will apply whatever you choose to do. So to start, I'm going to use just a random block, whatever block you don't care about or that's easy to make. For me, I'm just going to do the stone block here. And we're going to build a little platform that kind of comes out of the tree. And it's going to be 2 blocks down from the base here that I'm coming up to. So maybe for better demonstration purposes, I'll just put like a little platform here, just so you know kind of the base of where we're building up to. And then I'm going to build down 2 blocks from that. And then at the bottom there is where I'm going to start my little platform. So I can destroy this piece right here. And then maybe even first person building mode. And we're just going to build this out a little bit more. We can kind of destroy some of this if it gets in the way. Oops, maybe there. Something like that. So it doesn't have to be big, just a little tiny platform. And then we can take our table, rotate it. And for the top one, I could even just turn snapping on. We could go ahead and snap our first table into place. And you can also see, depending on which side you have it rotated, so I could have like this little wavy bark line facing out or the other one. So whichever one you want to kind of show. So in this case, I'm going to do kind of the side with the 2 larger lumps, but you could kind of rotate them in any direction that you want. And these tables are 2 blocks high, essentially, which is what I have here. So this lines up with our little platform here, and this is where the staircase is going to go to. So now, starting from kind of ground level here, you could build scaffolding if you're trying to build up a little higher, or if you're building it on an already existing hill here, then you can just kind of dig out a little bit of space in the hill to work with and then replace it with terrain after the fact. So for this one, I'm going to start again with my random stone block, and coming down from here by 1 block, we're just going to build another little platform. So something just like that. Again, nothing fancy. Maybe I'll put it just one more right there to have a little more space. Then we'll take our table again, and with snapping turned off now, I'm going to, let's see, maybe it'll be easier to see if I do a little bit of scaffolding out here. Kind of place it from this side. There we go. So I'll go here, first person building mode, and then we want to just back it up into the one we already placed on that platform that's 1 block lower. And then we could just rotate it by like 1 click, because it'll rotate by a lot of clicks. You could even rotate it really finely by using the kind of alternative snapping and placement here, where we can rotate it in kind of any direction really. But for this sake, I will just kind of use the standard rotation here without doing the fine-tune rotation, and we'll just rotate it 1 click each time. So starting right here, backing up, 1 click over, and right there. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll go ahead and destroy this little scaffolding piece. Go back to my single block, and just 1 block lower, I'll build out a little platform Doesn't really matter where, but yeah, I'm kind of heading down in this direction over here. So I'll make the platform angled off in that direction. Then build myself a little scaffolding to stand on over here. Something like that maybe, and then a little bit higher, just so that you guys can kind of see the angle that I'm placing the stairs at. First person building mode. And like I said earlier, you could even alternate. I could even flip it all the way around if I want to have that edge be the front for this step. So it really doesn't matter what you do. So that was what I had it rotated at before. I'm just going to hold R and the scroll wheel and rotate it one more click. Back it into the existing stair a little bit. And just place it something like that. So we're already starting to see a bit of a curve right here, which is looking really nice. And I'm just going to do that kind of, you know, maybe I want the staircase to end like right here about is where I'm gonna go. So for some of the steps, you can see here that this is creating a pretty tight turn radius. So if we keep turning like this, we might end up right here, but I wanna be right here. And so some of the steps I may not rotate. I might just place 2 of the same step in terms of the rotation here, if that makes any sense. Sometimes my terminology can be a little bit hard to understand, but hopefully you guys can follow along so far. So actually, whoops, I want to place 1 block down and then come out with another platform here. Maybe something like that. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. And continue kind of the same thing. So a little scaffolding there. First person building mode. Oops, with the table there. Rotate it 1 more click. Oops. There we go. And then kind of phase it back and place it in just like so. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And I think for the next one, I'm not going to rotate it. So let me destroy this one here. And then come down by 1 block. Then over by a couple right here. And place another little piece of scaffolding up here. I'll just kind of sit it up a little bit higher since that last one was a little lower. Jump onto that and then head to another table. And then rather than rotating it again, I'm just going to come out straight with it because it's kind of starting to take a sharp turn there. And this will look just fine because it's just such a subtle rotation that it's not really going to matter as much. So I'll just continue that all the way to the ground, and then I'll show you how to essentially hide this stone by either destroying it and just kind of putting some terrain, or in this case, what could be really cool to do is to bring a root down from here. Since this is already kind of a root of this big tree that's above me here, then I could kind of make this staircase almost look like it's a little root coming down from the tree. So I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Okay, so I've come down with my staircase. I've turned about 90 degrees here. And now it didn't quite hit the ground. So what I'm going to do is rather than just continuing straight into the tar pit, I'm going to turn it and come off this way just a little bit. And as you can see here, I'm kind of running out of space to really place blocks on the bottom. So when you get close to the ground like this, it's now easier to just build up from the ground level. So there you go. You can see that, for example, is 1 block lower than the table above it. Now I can just take my table here, and this one's still a little bit high, so I'll just do some scaffolding so that I can look down. I always like to do it looking down at the table that I'm placing. So I'll just rotate it 1 more click, and we're going to start turning it out in that direction. Now I'll remove this, and then same thing, I'll just build up from the ground somewhere in this area. That looks good. Really no exact placement or strategy for this. Just whatever seems right. And then backing it up and placing it about right there. So I'll just continue that to the ground. There's going to be the placement for the next one. And then maybe 1 more rotation click right there. That looks good. And then this bottom section, I will actually go ahead and destroy some of the ground blocks here and place some of my stone blocks in place of them because I want the table to sit on a flat surface. This is kind of an essential point here. If you're putting the table on the ground, you can see it kind of rotates and follows the angle of the ground here. So it's not really totally flat. You can kind of see there how it's rotating and warping and stuff. So you always want to place it on a flat block surface rather than on a terrain surface if you want the staircase to be flat. So here's my last table here, and I'm just going to place it, making sure it's on top of that stone piece, something like that. And then maybe one more. I mean, that'll work right there, but you could also place just one more kind of in the ground there. So here we go. This is the staircase, kind of an S shape here, which looks really nice. Again, you don't really know exactly where it's going to land, especially if it's a taller one like this. So that's why I was mentioning earlier to start from whatever is most important to you. It was important to me that the staircase ended exactly right here, because this is the platform that I had. I didn't really care where the landing was. It's a lot easier if you're doing it as a straight staircase, because you can obviously just snap some blocks, right? I could just do like over 2 and then up 1 and then over 2 and up 1 kind of a thing, and just turn snapping on and do the table, you know, 1 there, and then again with snapping on 1 there, and same thing up here. And then you can end up with, you know, a really easily calculated staircase to know exactly where it's going to end and land. But when you're rotating it like this and free placing them, it's a little bit harder to decide. So with the staircase in now, we will start doing a little bit of terrain and everything. And to do the terrain, you actually don't really have to destroy any of these stone blocks. That's why I said just use a block that you don't care about. It'll get buried in the ground anyway. In this case, because it's a floating staircase and it's not really in the hillside, right? If it was kind of in a hill, it might be really hard for you to get under here and destroy these. So that's why these don't really matter. But it could be kind of cool if it's floating. If you want to go for the look, you don't have to have anything under it at all. It looks kind of cool just as is if you can access underneath it to destroy all of these blocks. And then you could just have this cool little wooden staircase going up. But in my case, I think I am going to come out with a little root. So what I'm going to do first is take my bigger cube terrain blueprint. We're going to do it out of the black mire bark. And you can see we can kind of just sit it into the tables there without any issues. And this is after you build them. And you can see we're just covering up and hiding the stone and building ourselves a little root that comes down. This is just with the big blueprint at first. And once we kind of have a bit of a blocked root in like that, we can then get a little finer and perfect things. But what's really cool about this is that you can kind of phase the terrain up through the steps like that. And they still function as stairs. They look really nice, and it kind of hides the tables down into the ground. And it just looks really, really cool that way. If I wanted to, I could even take the single terrain block. We could get a little fancier here and put some foliage maybe in the steps. So maybe on this block here, I want some foliage kind of sticking through the steps there. That could look kind of nice. Maybe a little bit in there, and maybe a little more on the side of this root over here. And it just looks really, really cool how you can kind of phase the terrain. Like this side didn't get covered quite as much. So maybe I'll add a little foliage in there. And it just glitches right up through the tables like that, which I just think looks super cool. So I'll just spend a little bit of time kind of perfecting what I have here. Honestly, it looks pretty good. There's not a whole lot of smoothing to do. I could take my little terrain block and kind of round off the bottom of this root here to not look quite as squared, and essentially just kind of sculpt it. But that way it just meshes with the tree, looks super natural. And that's what I love about this style of staircase, especially like I said earlier for a forest village project. So, and as I mentioned, you can always basically substitute these tables for any size table that you want, depending on the space you're working with. So I hope this video was helpful. I know I did this build on my live streams for my actual forest village, but I got a lot of comments wanting me to do a shorter video, kind of detailing my process more. For those of you that were having trouble placing them or wondering how to rotate them and kind of glitch them into the terrain like this. And your answer is do the table and the staircase first and then come in after the fact with the terrain. Because yeah, it's nearly impossible if you were to try to like sit the table down in terrain. The only thing I could think of is like, you know, using the fine-tune rotation and using like Q in the scroll wheel to kind of sit the table down, but then it's showing as red and not able to actually place it. So yeah, there's a few tricks and things to make this process easier. Like I said, it's pretty freeform, not really an exact method, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.